are problems that actually delayed the accreditation exercise in some polling stations, but nevertheless did not stop the card reader from accepting the people or from stopping the electoral process from going on.
Idris, as far as you know, is all election in Kano over? And if that's the case, is collation taking place? And can we expect to get results from Kano at least sometime today?
No, I am not so sure that we will be able to get results today from Kano. But what I do know is that there are so many polling stations, there are so many people we can get results from many governments. There are 44 local governments in Kano State, but I cannot tell you right now that we're going to get results from all these 44 local governments today, because of course there are some areas within the metropolis that actually started voting around 5 o'clock. So you see, in this kind of state, we cannot guarantee that we will be able to get their results today. But I am sure most of these local governments in Kano State will be able to have their results ready by the end of today, but not all of the 44 local government areas. Of course, we have not had case of any local government or any polling station that did not start voting as of yesterday. All the polling stations in Kano State started voting, only that maybe we say they did not start in time.
Well, Idris, at this point, we'll let you go for now, but keep an eye on developments in Kano City and, of course, Kano State. And, of course, we hope to get back to you to find out if anything has changed as far as expectations for the results are concerned. Well, that was our correspondent in Kano State, Idris Jibrin, giving us an update on the situation in the ancient commercial city of Kano in northwestern Nigeria. Well,
Kano is a very important state. And back to what we were saying, and some of the glitches that he mentioned as well, that INEC should, that the benefit of the doubt that you mentioned, to explain at what level are these problems and these glitches, how many are they, what really happened. The INEC commissioner tried to explain in the case of Abuja, where accreditation couldn't begin because the INEC officials couldn't get there because the transporters went back on their prior arrangement of taking them to the polling unit. They took them to the wards. They didn't get to the polling units.
I guess
so it wasn't INEC's fault, and they had to wade in on that matter.
The point I was trying to make earlier was a bit like Dr. Odumaki, who was very measured and a bit hesitant. It's about whether you can condemn the whole process without first getting a better picture of how much of it was affected.
But at the same time, who speaks for the voters who are suffering at the polls, like Chief was mentioning?
Nobody is dismissing their suffering or underplaying it or saying it's not important. But I am looking at a bigger picture. We have elections that are very critical to this country, elections that are important. And I'm just saying that before you begin to question the credibility of those elections, you better be sure that the facts are absolutely accurate. And we can't, because at the moment all we're having are individual stories which do not yet form a bigger picture of what is going on. Because obviously, as we're talking, we're getting individual stories. We've got eyewitnesses like him, but then I'm also sitting next to him. And in my polling unit, even though accreditation started late, our card reader worked perfectly well, and by 6 o'clock we had counted the votes, and the result was, at the polling unit pasted by INEC staff. So again, what I'm saying is, if we are going to talk about the whole process, then it should be because we have the right information and we're able to say that, okay, we now have enough to know that a substantial part of the voting was affected by these problems, and it is enough for us to say that, okay, the credibility has been undermined. I am not yet there. Okay. That is all I'm saying.
Well, if we must agree that all the reports that we are getting, they are not false reports. They are true and they are real, as witnessed by people calling in. Everything I had said today was what I experienced. Nobody's going to pay me for undermining or for undercutting INEC. Okay? As a person, I have nothing against Professor Jega. Well, as far as I'm concerned, as far as election is concerned in Nigeria, the buck stops at his desk. The figures that he gave about places where election did not hold, they were as given by him. Nobody has been able to verify their credibility as far as I'm concerned. One, okay. Number two, if we have to go by all of that, it should be allowing the students to mark his own exam scripts.
Before we even get to credibility, the process itself, questions that should be asked, like, was this avoidable in this case? You mentioned inadequately trained officials. Yeah, yeah. Is that something that could have been avoided?
That could have been avoided.
You know, things like that.
And those are legitimate questions. Yes. You know, they are legitimate. It's a legitimate conversation to have. But what I said again, I'm hesitant because we sat here and we listened to the Anambra State correspondent, for example, give us a litany of all the things that went wrong in Anambra State. And yet, when you asked him, were there no areas where things went well? He said, well, actually, there are areas where things went well. It's the nature of news that all you hear are the things that go wrong. And so the fact that what we are reporting are the bad things are not necessary. There are a lot of areas where things happened, and they happened. And I'm not making excuses for Jega, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ask what went wrong, especially because we have another election to run. Let's not forget, this is not the end of it. On April 11th, we're still going to go back to the polls. And if the questions we're raising here mean that he gets his act together and he's able to deliver better elections, then that is good for Nigeria. But what I think we shouldn't do, and I think is a bit irresponsible at this stage, is to begin to say, because of these problems, the legitimacy of the elections have been compromised. That is all I am saying.
I don't think we have gotten that far.
Right.
To legitimacy or credibility.
Okay.
We haven't gotten that far. I will tell you straight away that it will be very uncharitable for anybody to now write off the entire process. But the point is...
the River State governor...
But the point is...
Well, of course, I mean...
It says that in his state that, as far as he's concerned...
Again, I think that need to be investigated, right?
You know,
But he said it.
That could be a partisan statement. The question is, what samples are still taken before he arrived at that conclusion? Like Riley said, and I agree with you that nobody can now sit and say, oh, we must throw away the baby and the bathwater. Okay, that would be very wrong. But the issues are, there are problems across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And I'm not going to take it kindly that a vehicle broke down. And then for hours, nothing could be done to move people. These people got here to my own polling center at about 1:40 or thereabout. If a vehicle broke down, couldn't something have been done in the immediate without allowing for such a long time? The telephones were working. They were not shut down. They could have called for help from somewhere.
Well, of course, we did hear from at least two governors who were not particularly pleased with the process, just like Chief Ario is displeased to some extent. But then from the Niger Delta to the southeast of the country, well, maybe let's hear from a governor in the north-central part of the country, precisely Kogi State. And coming up next is Governor Idris Wada of Kogi State. What has his experience been like?
President Jonathan has kept his promise of giving Nigerians an environment of one man, one vote. And the work that INEC has done over the years is manifesting into people having confidence in the credibility of the system, the transparency of the system, electronic introduction seem to be working. So this has, once there is confidence in the system, confidence in the